On the morning of my son's wedding, our family driver shoved me into the trunk of the car and covered me with a blanket. "Have you lost your mind?" I screamed. "Please, Mrs. Vance, hide in here." "Not a sound. You have to see this. Please trust me," he replied. A few minutes later, holding my breath, I saw something through the crack that paralyzed me with shock. Before we continue, please tell us in the comments where you are listening from and how old you are. We love getting to know our audience. Enjoy the story. I had been waiting so long for the moment I would watch my son walk down the aisle on his wedding day. And suddenly, our family driver literally pushed me into the trunk of his sedan and threw a blanket over me. "What are you doing?" I hissed, pushing back with my hands. He leaned in closer, his lips barely moving. "Mrs. Vance, hide now. You need to see this. Believe me." Every cell in my body wanted to fight back. Slam the trunk and tell him he had lost his mind. But then I remembered how this man had driven my husband for 15 years. I remembered how he drove me to the hospital in the middle of the night when James was dying, and how he held my hand outside the morgue afterward. So I did something that went against every instinct I had. I lay down in the trunk and let him cover me with the heavy dark throw blanket. What I saw later through that narrow slit left me numb and still stands before my eyes to this day. Before I tell you everything, I want to thank you for listening to this story. Do not forget to subscribe, so you do not miss the continuation of these family stories. And if you know someone who needs to hear this right now, just forward them this video. One more thing, everything I am telling you is based on real feelings and very similar life situations, but some details and names have been changed for the safety of the people involved. Any resemblance to real people or addresses is accidental, but the lessons here are very real, and I hope at least one of them resonates in your heart. On the morning my son was getting married, I stood in my bedroom looking at the dress I had chosen 3 months ago. Navy blue, calm, elegant. Exactly what the mother of the groom wears if she is proud of him. I should have been rejoicing, calling my girlfriends, sobbing into the phone saying, "Can you believe it? My Marcus is getting married." But I stood there pressing my palm to my chest, listening to my heartbeat too fast, too loud. Something was wrong. I could not articulate it, but a heavy cold stone lay in my gut. If James were alive, he would have understood immediately what was happening to me. My husband had been gone for 3 years, but I still caught myself thinking I need to ask James. I wanted to turn around, see him in the doorway and ask quietly, "Do you feel it too?" But James was not there. Marcus, my kind, trusting boy, was downstairs getting ready to marry Vanessa Keegan. Beautiful, polished, a woman who knew exactly how to speak and smile. I shook my head as if I could shake the anxiety out of it and reached for my earrings. "Stop it, Eleanor," I scolded myself. "You are just making things up." I was fastening the second earring when a familiar sound came from the driveway, tires crunching slowly on the gravel. Frank's car. I glanced at the clock. It was only 7:30. We had agreed to leave in 20 minutes. I grabbed my purse and went downstairs. Outside, the warm spring air hit me. It was one of those days when it feels like life is starting all over again. But our driver's face said otherwise. He stood by the black sedan, fists clenched, his jaw working. Frank worked for us for 15 years. He drove James to his last meeting. He drove me to the hospital that night. When James died, I never saw Frank panic. But right now, standing before me was a man barely holding himself together. "Mrs. Advance," he said quietly but sharply. "You need to hide right now." I froze in the middle of the walkway. "What? Please." He took a step closer and I saw genuine fear in his eyes. "Get in the back. Cover yourself with the blanket. Do not make a sound." "Frank, what is wrong with you?" "Mrs. Vance," his voice cracked. "I promised James. I swore to him I would protect you and Marcus. Right now I am asking you to trust me." My husband's name hit me like a punch to the chest. Frank never mentioned James without reason. I turned back toward the house. Marcus was about to walk out in his tuxedo. Joyful. Ready to marry the woman he thought was the love of his life. The woman he considers his love, I thought, and shuddered at how that phrase sounded in my head. "Frank," I whispered. "What did you find out?" He swallowed hard. "Not here and not now, but you have to hear something before Mr. Marcus stands at that altar, and he must not know that you are listening." My hand trembled slightly. What are you talking about? Please. He threw open the back door. The interior smelled of leather and faint lavender air freshener. Get in. I will explain everything, but there is almost no time. I looked at the open door, at the neatly folded, dark blanket on the seat, at Frank's face. A man who had been practically a family member for 15 years, who had never lied to me. From the house came Marcus' cheerful voice. I gathered the hem of my dress so I would not step on it, and squeezed into the back seat floorboard area, pulling myself into the space connected to the trunk. The fabric caught on the threshold. I hurriedly tucked it under me. The spacious car suddenly felt as tight as a coffin. Frank handed me the blanket. Soft, dense, dark. Cover yourself completely, he whispered. He must not see you. I pulled the blanket over my head. The world went dark, muffled, and narrow. I heard only my rapid breathing and the rush of blood in my ears. The door closed quietly, and then I heard him. All right, Frank, let's roll. Marcus's voice was light, excited. Of course, Mr. Marcus, Frank replied in his habitually calm tone. Everything is on schedule. The front door slammed. The seat springs creaked softly as Marcus sat next to the driver. The car filled with his familiar scent, the same cologne James used to wear. I can't believe it. Marcus laughed. I'm actually doing this. Getting married. Big day, Frank said. The biggest. A short pause hung in the air. Pity Dad isn't here. My son's voice grew quieter. He would definitely make a joke right now about me finally settling down. My throat tightened. Under the blanket, I covered my mouth with my hand to keep from sobbing. Your father would be very proud of you, Frank said softly. The engine purred and the car began to move. And just like that, in a fancy dress on the way to my own son's wedding, I lay under a blanket in the back of a car, listening to his joyful voice and wondering what truth I was about to hear. He does not suspect a thing. The thought flashed through my mind, and neither did I. We had been driving for about 10 minutes when Marcus's phone rang. I could see absolutely nothing. Only darkness under the blanket and weak morning light seeping in from above. But I heard everything. The steady hum of the engine, the rustle of fabric as my son shifted, and the sharp vibration of the phone on the dashboard. It's Vanessa, Marcus said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Hello, sunshine. I'm already on the road heading to the church. He must have put it on speaker. The bride's voice filled the car, smooth, warm, perfectly pitched. Good morning, my groom, Vanessa said. How are you feeling? Nervous. Marcus chuckled anxiously. But in a good way, like before something big. And you should be. Her voice changed slightly. There was a strange note in it that I did not understand immediately. After today, everything changes. Under the blanket, I frowned. The words themselves were ordinary. Any bride might say that. But how did she say it? Something in her intonation pricked me. Marcus seemed not to notice. I'm ready to start our life. You, me, the whole future, he said from the bottom of his heart. There was a short pause, barely noticeable to a stranger's ear, but palpable to a mother. Yes, Vanessa said. Finally, our life. Finally. That finally sounded as if she were waiting not for love but for some profitable outcome. I pressed my palm to my chest, trying to calm my breathing. You are overreacting, Eleanor, I told myself. You are lying under a blanket in a car, hiding because the driver told you to. And now you are listening to every word like a paranoid woman. Where is your mom? Vanessa asked in a slightly more casual tone. Is she riding with you? No, Mom is coming separately. Marcus answered calmly. Said she wanted to be alone for a bit, catch her breath. You know how moms are worrying, crying. My eyes stung. I see, Vanessa said, and then quieter, almost to herself. That's good. Good. Why is it good that I'm not there? A chill ran through me. The phone beeped again with a different sound. Hold on, sunshine, Marcus said. Someone else is calling. Who? Vanessa's tone became sharper. I don't know. Unknown number. Marcus declined the second call. Probably spam. Anyway, what were we saying? They started talking about little things again. The reception, the flowers, whether he picked up the binder, regular pre-wedding chatter. I almost stopped listening until the phone vibrated again. The same unknown number. This time doubt flickered in my son's voice. Weird calling again. Don't answer it, Vanessa said quickly. Too quickly. Today is your day. Don't waste your nerves on telemarketers. You're probably right. But I could hear in his voice that he was thinking about it. They said their goodbyes. I love you. See you at the altar, Marcus said. Me too, she replied and hung up. Silence reigned in the car for 30 seconds. Only the engine and the sound of the road. Then the phone rang again, a full loud ring this time. What is going on? Marcus muttered and, judging by the rustle, picked up the device. Again, third time. What the hell? Hello? I did not hear what was said to him, but I heard my son's answer very clearly. I told you not to call this number. His voice dropped sharply, becoming low and strangled, not angry but frightened. I said I would handle it. Stop calling me. He abruptly ended the call. The air in the car seemed to thicken. Is everything all right, Mr. Marcus? Frank asked evenly. Yeah, Marcus tried to chuckle, but the laugh came out dry. Just, nerves wetting, you understand, Frank said. But I heard my son's breathing quicken. Heard him fidgeting in the seat as if he could not get comfortable. My boy was afraid of something and clearly did not want anyone to know about it. I lay under the blanket, curled into a ball, thinking only one thing. Who is it? Who is calling him? And what is he trying to run from? Hoping that marriage will save him. The car slowed down and turned. I felt it with my body, not my eyes. We were pulled to the side, although on the familiar route to the church we should have been going straight. Even under the blanket I knew the road by heart. We held James's funeral there. We baptized Marcus there. All the important moments of our family life happened in that church. Now we were not going there. Frank. Surprise cut through Marcus's voice. Where are we turning? Small detour, Frank replied calmly. The phone beeped short again. A text message. And Marcus's voice became simultaneously anxious and relieved. It's Vanessa texting. Says it's urgent. Emergency with a bridesmaid. Pick me up before the church. He fell silent. She sent the address. Is everything okay? Frank asked. I don't know. My son's voice tensed. She says it's urgent. Frank, can we swing by? I have to pick her up. Of course. Too quickly and easily, Frank replied. I had been waiting for this answer. He already knew we would turn. The car turned again. The smooth hum of the highway was replaced by the uneven noise of neighborhood streets. I felt every pothole with my whole body. Strange, Marcus muttered. Vanessa's friends usually live in totally different neighborhoods. And I realized too this place was not from the world my family lived in. The car stopped. I'll be quick, Marcus said. She texted to wait for her in the living room. The door slammed. Steps moved away. For a second it was quiet. Only my own heart thundering somewhere in my throat. Then a familiar voice spoke near the back. Mrs. Vance, come out. I threw off the blanket. The light hit my eyes so sharply that I was blinded for a moment. Frank held the door open, offering me his hand. I climbed out with difficulty. My legs were numb from lying curled up for so long. My dress was hopelessly wrinkled. I didn't even look at it. Frank, I hissed, trying not to raise my voice. What is this? Where are we? He didn't answer, just nodded to the side. I turned. A small single-story bungalow, maybe 30 years old. Faded yellow siding, a low fence. The grass in the yard had needed mowing for a long time. A child's bicycle lay by the garage, and by the road stood a mailbox, white with black lettering. The Keegan family. I read it, blinked, read it again. Keegan, I whispered. Vanessa's last name. Look at the house, Mrs. Vance, Frank said grimly. I obeyed. Marcus stood at the front door facing the street, knocking. The door opened. Vanessa appeared on the threshold. Ordinary jeans, a simple sweater, hair pulled back in a ponytail. Nothing in common with the rehearsed, flawless bride who sat at our table just a few days ago. She smiled at Marcus warmly, broadly, as if nothing in the world was more important. I heard her voice, though the words didn't reach me clearly. She beckoned him inside with her hand. Marcus entered. Wait for me in the living room, she said louder. I'll just grab my things upstairs. The door closed. What is happening, Frank? I asked, feeling panic rising inside. Who lives here? He clenched his jaw. The question isn't who lives here, Mrs. Vance. It's who Vanessa comes to visit here. What are you talking about? He nodded, not toward the front door but to the side. An inconspicuous entrance that would be easy to miss if you didn't know where to look. See the side door? He said almost in a whisper. Watch there. Not the front entrance, the side one. Why? What am I supposed to see? Just his hand landed on my elbow, soft but firm. Just watch. She doesn't know you're here. She doesn't know that you are about to see the real her. My mouth went dry. A mailbox with a strange name. A house Marcus had never been to. A side door I wouldn't have even thought about. And Frank's face just as tense as this morning in my driveway. What am I going to see, Frank? I asked quietly. What is behind that door? He didn't answer, just stared at the house without blinking. I did the same. 10 minutes stretched like 10 hours. Frank and I stood hidden behind the car. I felt the cold concrete through my knees. My heart beat somewhere in my throat. The residential neighborhood was quiet at this hour. A few birds, distant highway noise. Nothing suggested that right here on this inconspicuous street, several lives were breaking apart at once. Exactly at 8 o'clock in the morning, the side door jerked and slowly opened. And before I tell you who stepped out onto the porch and what I saw next, I want you to write in the comments, show me right now. It is important for me to know that you are ready to hear this to the end. And I will say it again. It gets heavier from here. This is a story about how a lie can destroy two families at once. Vanessa stepped out first, quickly, efficiently, without any of her learned grace. No dress, no bridal image, simple jeans, loose blouse, ponytail, just an ordinary woman stepping out for business. And then, almost crashing into her legs, a little girl flew out the door. About 5 years old, blonde curls bouncing, arms reaching immediately for her mother. Mommy, she clung to Vanessa. Are you leaving again? Everything inside me dropped. Mommy. Vanessa crouched down. Her voice became soft, real without pretense. Just for today, Zoe, honey. Just a little bit. And then everything will be different. I heard this different and felt a chill run down my spine. A man appeared in the doorway, about 40, jeans, t-shirt, tired face. The very same Keegan family. From the mailbox. We need to talk about Ray, he said tensely, looking at Vanessa. Not now, Sam. She waved him off sharply. Marcus is in the living room. Are you really going to do this? He nodded toward the car. Marry him. There was everything in his voice, despair, and the realization that she couldn't be stopped. He's a decent guy, he said quietly. He doesn't deserve this. His kindness won't help us, she interrupted coldly. But his family will. She stood up, stepped closer to Sam, looked him straight in the eyes. The Vance business, the hotels, their accounts. That is what will protect our daughter. At what price? He looked down. Too high. Vanessa chuckled joylessly. 1 year of marriage, a beautiful divorce, and we are free. She took a step toward him, almost pressing against him. Ray gets his money and we disappear. You, me, and Zoe far away. I felt nausea rising in my chest. James worked his whole life, built this business, counted every penny. Marcus grew up in this, saw how his father worked, and all of this was just a line item in her plan. Hotels, accounts, inheritance. Sam looked at her face like a man who had already been sentenced, but he still tried to argue. I don't like any of this, he said hollowly. You don't have to like it. Vanessa pulled him close abruptly and kissed him. Not the way she kissed Marcus in front of us, politely, decently, but for real. There were years there, habit, a life together. You just need to trust me, she whispered. Daddy, Zoe tugged at his t-shirt. Daddy, can I have pancakes? Sure, sunshine. Sam's voice broke. Go inside. I'm coming. The girl ran inside, humming something under her breath. A small child who didn't even understand that her mother was about to save one family and break another with one wedding. If we don't give Ree the money, Sam said quietly, he takes Zoe. You heard him yourself. Then we have to pay. Vanessa replied harshly. Today from the house came Marcus's voice. Vanessa, you coming? We need to leave or we'll be late. Vanessa changed instantly. Her shoulders softened. Her face brightened. She became that kind bride again, the one we all believed in. Coming, my love, she shouted in a gentle voice. Just a second. And she walked back through the side door, as if she hadn't just discussed a financial scam involving my son's entire life with her husband. Half a minute later, the front door opened. Vanessa came out with Marcus in different clothes with a different smile, soft, tender. He hugged her by the waist, pulled her close, suspecting nothing. Ready? He asked. Yes. She leaned toward him slightly. Sorry I took so long. My friend's cat got out. Time just flew while we looked. She pointed to a silver car in the driveway. Let's take mine, she said. I want to drive us to the church myself. Just you and me before everything changes. Marcus smiled, melted. Romantic, he chuckled. Okay. He waved toward the street where our car stood. I'll text Frank to meet us at the church. Perfect. She pecked him on the cheek. Let's go get married. A minute later, her car pulled out of the driveway and disappeared around the corner, taking my son to where he hoped to start a new life. I watched them go and realized he is driving straight into a trap. My legs went weak, but inside everything tightened into a hard knot. Frank stepped closer. She always insisted on driving her own car, he said quietly. It was more convenient for her living between two houses. Mr. Marcus never asked why she didn't want to be driven. He glanced at his watch. 20 minutes to the church. If you want to talk to Keegan, the time is now. I took a deep breath, straightened up and walked toward the house. With every step, my legs felt heavier. I knocked. The knock echoed in my chest, louder than on the wood. Footsteps approached behind the door. Sam opened it. The same tired look, the same man I just saw on the porch. He looked at me with confusion and that fear people have when the truth suddenly arrives. Can I help you? He asked almost mechanically. I am Eleanor Vance, I said evenly. Marcus's mother. His face went white before my eyes. His hand gripped the door frame until his knuckles turned white. I'm not. I pulled out my phone. On the screen was a photo of the engagement Marcus sent me a couple of months ago. Him and Vanessa smiling happily. Then a shot from the official engagement party at the restaurant. Is she familiar to you? I asked. Sam stepped back as if he had been hit. Oh God, he exhaled. So she really. I stepped into the hallway. He didn't stop me. Small living room, old but well-kept sofa, toys on the carpet. In the corner, Zoe was playing with a dollhouse, humming to herself. I shifted my gaze to Sam. So she really what? I asked. Let's stop beating around the bush. He looked at Zoe, then at me. Guilt, fear, and a strange relief in his eyes, as if he had been waiting a long time for someone to come and say, enough. Time to tell the truth. She is my wife, he finally choked out. Legally for years now. Although I expected something like this, these words hit like a bullet. For years. Marcus had known her for 2. I gripped the strap of my purse so my hands wouldn't shake. And today I said quietly, she is marrying my son. Sam nodded, lowering his eyes. She said this way we would solve all our problems, he muttered. That if she marries your son, we will finally have the chance to pay off the debt and start over. Pay off what? I asked. He sighed, ran his palm over his face. Debts? Zoe's medical bills. She was born premature, was in NICU. The bills were hair-raising. Then I got into a couple of bad investments hoping to win it back. Didn't win. He sat on the edge of the sofa staring at the floor. There is a man, Raythorne, he continued. Formally, he sort of helps people with money. In reality, a common loan shark with gangster habits. He gave us an amount no bank would touch. He looked again at Zoe, who was moving dolls from room to room in her house. But people like that have their conditions, he said quietly. And their threats engine you? I clarified, though the answer was clear. Sam nodded. If we don't return everything with interest by the end of the year, he takes Zoe. He'll sell her. That's what he said. You won't see her again. His words hung in the air like smoke. Vanessa decided we had to find a way out. He continued. First a better job, then new loans. Then she started reading about rich people in the city, about big families, about your business. He looked at me guilty. She found you. Everything inside me went cold. She studied your family for months, he went on. Business, hotels, real estate, who owns what, who does what. The day in my office floated before my eyes when Marcus first brought her to me. How her gaze swept over the paintings on the walls, the view from the window, the furniture, and in between she asked interesting questions. How do you manage such a large portfolio? Is everything in your name? How is the inheritance set up? I noticed it all then and closed my eyes. She took her maiden name, Sam continued, used her grandmother's surname to become Vanessa Keegan. She planned it out. Which events does your son go to? who to approach through, what topics to discuss with him. The charity gala at the hospital, I said aloud. Sam nodded. That wasn't accidental, he confirmed. She planned it all. Said your son was the perfect candidate. Lonely after a heavy loss from a wealthy family, soft character. My fists clenched. He opened his mouth as if to justify himself, but closed it. She really tried to be good to him. He added quietly. I saw it in her, but the plan is the plan. She decided if she marries him, she gets access to the money. We can pay off Ray and we leave. She said. 1 year to endure and we are free. I stood in the middle of their modest living room and realized this wasn't just about my son's broken heart anymore. A child, a dangerous man, fraud, and an attempt to infiltrate our family business were involved. James's voice sounded in my head. The right decision is almost always the most painful one, Eleanor. But you still have to make. I looked at Zoe, building a house for dolls where everyone is happy, and realized there was no time for pity. Do you have anything on paper? I asked in a business tone. Documents, texts, photos. Sam seemed to come alive. I do, he nodded. I kept everything. Just in case. He quickly went into the room and returned with a crumpled paper folder, laid everything out on the coffee table. First the marriage certificate, real with the official seal. Samuel Keegan and Vanessa Keegan. Marriage registered 4 years ago. Then a stack of photos. Vanessa in the maternity ward with newborn Zoe. Family holidays. The beach. Christmas. A full family. Real, not the one she showed us. Then printed text messages. Some phrases were highlighted with a marker. The Vance family is millions. Hotels, real estate, investments. If I get in there, we have everything we need. Another text. Marcus is perfect, lonely after his father's death. Very trusting. He won't suspect a thing. Inside I shrank. Next were internet searches printed on sheets. Vance Holdings. Vance Hotel Chain. Vance Family Assets. She studied us purposefully. Last lay a sheet with one phrase highlighted in bold. As soon as I get married, Ray won't touch us. 1 year and a divorce. We leave with what we need and start over. This is criminal, I said quietly. Fraud, bigamy, attempted embezzlement. At that moment, Frank appeared in the doorway again. Mrs. Vance, he said quickly. We need to leave. Guests are already gathering at the church. I closed the folder, pressed it to my chest, turned to Sam. You are coming to the church with Zoe. He recoiled. Are you crazy? His eyes asked. Ray is watching us if he realizes I ruined everything. I will take care of security, I said firmly. There will be more than just a priest and guests. Frank stepped forward. I have acquaintances who know how to work quietly and quickly, he said. Your daughter is not in danger. You can really do that. Sam's voice broke. I have been protecting this family for 15 years, Frank replied. I won't let them hurt you or the child. Sam looked at Zoe. She looked up at him. Daddy, when are we going to eat pancakes? He took a heavy breath, then straightened up. Okay, he said quietly. For her sake and for your son. He doesn't deserve a wedding like this. Then listen carefully. I spoke in the voice I used to discuss deals with James. In a couple of hours, the ceremony begins. You arrive early at the back courtyard of the church. Stay there until I give the signal. Do not let go of the folder. Vanessa must not see you. He nodded. Frank looked at his phone. We need to leave right now, he said. Marcus is already at the church asking where you are. I turned to Sam. Will you come? I will. He nodded, clutching the folder tighter. And thank you for coming at all. Frank and I walked out. As the car pulled away through the glass, I saw Sam on the porch. He stood with the folder pressed to his chest, watching us go. A father who realized too late what he had been dragged into, but decided to do the right thing anyway, and we drove toward the church where everyone was waiting for a beautiful wedding. No one but the three of us knew yet that instead of a celebration, there would be the collapse of someone's carefully constructed lie. And the hardest part was just beginning. 20 minutes later, I walked into my house as if nothing special had happened because Marcus wasn't supposed to know. Not yet. As soon as I opened the door, laughter came from the living room. Come on, Tyrone. Stop it. My son laughed. I'm already on edge. Alive, happy as a groom should be on his wedding day. And in my purse lay a folder with someone else's marriage certificate and proof that his fiancée was already someone else's wife. I took a breath and plastered on my usual smile. Mom, where were you? Marcus peeked out from the living room, anxious and relieved at the same time. You took so long. Everything okay? He stood in a white shirt, jacket on the armchair, tie in his hands, the one we chose together. On the sofa lounged Tyrone, already in a suit with a smirk. Mrs. Vance, he stood up. How do you like the groom? Half the country would give anything to look like that. I smiled. My groom is excellent, I said. Just went outside for some fresh air. It's quite a day, you understand? I don't understand. Tyrone chuckled. She's more nervous than you are. I'm nervous too. Marcus shook the tie nervously. Look, my hands are shaking. He came closer, held out the tie. Help me. I've retied it 10 times. It's just not right. I stood opposite him, took the ends of the fabric. My fingers trembled slightly. I forced them to obey. So many times in my life I had tied a tie. First for James, then for my son when he entered college, went to his first job. Now for a wedding that, as I already knew, wouldn't happen. Mom. Marcus looked at me with some boyish helplessness. Do you think Vanessa is happy? Like truly? A lump rose in my throat. And you? I asked. Are you happy? He smiled so warmly that everything inside me tightened. Yes, he said quietly. She is everything I dreamed of. Smart, beautiful, calm. After Dad died, I thought I'd never be able to breathe normally again. It seemed like life was over. But with her, it became easier. I looked away for a second so I wouldn't give myself away. On the mantelpiece stood a photo, James holding Marcus by the shoulder at graduation, both laughing. If you were here, James, I thought, would you see who she is right away? Or would you believe her too? Which of us would be blinder? Would Dad be happy? Marcus asked suddenly. That I'm marrying Vanessa? I swallowed. Dad? My voice betrayed me and trembled. I pulled myself together. Dad would be proud of you. Not because you are getting married, but because you are living on, not giving up. Tyrone got up, clapped my son on the shoulder. You're the man, bro, seriously, you have no idea how lucky you are. She looks at you like you're the only one on the planet. I thought about how she looked at Sam by the side door and almost grimaced. Mom. Marcus turned to me again. Thank you for everything. For holding up after Dad. For accepting Vanessa. For not making scenes. It's very important. He kissed me on the forehead. I barely held back from grabbing him and saying, Son, run right now before it's too late. Instead, I squeezed out. Go put on your jacket. You look wonderful. Okay, bathroom for a minute, he said more cheerfully. Tyrone, make sure Mom doesn't run away. I have orders, Tyrone grumbled, not letting her out of my sight. Marcus left. The bathroom door clicked. Tyrone looked at me. The joking manner faded a bit. Mrs. Vance, honestly, Marcus is really happy, he said. Seriously. I've never seen him like this. If not for Vanessa, he would still be stuck in his grief. I nodded. I know. That is why I thought I have to choose between his happiness today and his entire future life. In my room, I closed the door and just leaned my back against it. I needed at least 10 seconds to allow myself to feel all of this. In 3 hours, I had to walk into a church where relatives, friends, partners were gathering and say, this wedding will not take place. I had to break my son's heart with my own hands to save him from something that would crush his whole life. I sat on the edge of the bed, put the bag next to me, took out the folder. My fingers flipped through the documents on their own. Marriage certificate of Samuel and Vanessa Keegan. Photos, printed text, those vile phrases. He is perfect. He won't notice. As soon as I get into the family, we will be under protection. I put everything back, snapped the folder shut, and put it back in the bag. On the nightstand stood another photo of us. James, me, and little Marcus, about 7, at the lake house. James holding his son by the shoulders and laughing, and I looking at them as if the whole universe was under my feet. Give me strength, James, I whispered, touching the frame. I have to break our boy's heart to save him. The phone vibrated in the bag. A message from Frank. Keegan and Zoe left. Estimated arrival at the church on time. Contacted the people. Who will provide security? Are you ready? I looked at the screen. Was I ready? No, I wasn't. But it was too late to ask me that. As ready as one can ever be for this, I typed back and hit send. Then I stood up, walked to the full-length mirror. Looking back at me was a woman who, by all signs, should be going to a celebration right now. Neat hair, makeup, that navy blue dress. No trace that just 2 hours ago she was lying in the trunk of her own car, listening to her son drive his fiancée to the city, unaware that she had a husband and child at home. I ran my palms over the dress, smoothed the folds, took my bag. Well, I said quietly to my reflection. Let's go. Outside the window, the sun had risen higher and the light hit the glass so that two faces were reflected at once, mine and James's, from that photo. And in that moment I realized next stop the church. And there I would have to stand up when everyone was waiting for I do, and say the most important word of my life. I object. Driving to the church, I felt like I was driving myself to an execution. My hands held the steering wheel. I knew the road by heart. But there was only one thought. In a couple of hours I have to stand in front of my son and tell him his wedding won't happen. Familiar places floated by. The intersection where James stopped the car, pulled me out onto the street, and shakily held out a ring. Let's make it official. You're always too busy. The park where little Marcus, stuttering with delight, pedaled his first bike, and James ran alongside, holding the seat and yelling, "Don't be scared. I'm right here." And now James is gone. Marcus is grown and I am driving alone to break what he considers happiness. If you were alive, James, I thought I would calmly dump this all on you. You would step out, say a couple of sentences, and everyone would understand. And now I have to. My thoughts involuntarily went back 2 years. James had been gone only a year. I was just starting to recover in business and at home, sitting in the office, looking at reports I used to do with him, learning to make decisions alone. The door swung open without a knock, as always with Marcus. "Mom," he beamed as if he brought the sun into the office. "I want you to meet a girl." Behind his shoulder stood her. Vanessa, beautiful, groomed in a neat dress with the right smile. Not vulgar, not provocative, very proper. "Mrs. Vance, it is a great honor for me," she said in a soft voice. "Marcus has told me so much about you." I noted how she looked, not at Marcus, around the room, at the paintings, at the panoramic window, at the furniture, at the shelves with documents. Her gaze was not that of a girl in love, but of a person assessing the environment. We sat down. Marcus took her hand, looking as if he found treasure. "Vanessa has been through a lot," he said. "We met at the charity gala at the hospital. We just clicked, both in work and views." She nodded, looking at me with warm eyes. "Loss is always hard. I myself have thought a lot about how important it is not just to earn but to help." The words were right. The intonations too, but the eyes. When the conversation smoothly shifted to business, she asked, "Sort of, by the way, and how do you handle such volume? So many properties, hotels, offices. You probably have partners." I answered with general phrases. "And have you arranged the inheritance somehow?" She clarified a little later. "Well, just in case, so Marcus isn't left with red tape." Marcus immediately chimed in. "Vanessa is a genius, always asking about security." Back then I wrote it off as a responsible young woman, and still an inner voice whispered quietly, "She is too quickly interested not in you but in what is behind your back." I strangled that voice because Marcus was smiling for real for the first time in a year, because I was afraid of becoming that evil mother-in-law who sees an enemy in every girl. Now, sitting behind the wheel on the way to the church, I mentally slapped myself for that weakness. I could have stopped everything back then in my office, I thought. And now I have to do it in front of a full congregation. The steeple of the chapel gleamed ahead. A large building, expensive cars nearby, people in suits and dresses, bouquets, photographers, everything as it should be, everything beautiful, everything according to plan except for what I knew. I stopped the car a little distance away, turned off the engine, and just sat for a second holding the wheel. Phone vibrated. Message from Frank. "Keegan is on site. Standing in the far corner of the parking lot. Zoe is with him. The people I talked about are nearby. Don't worry about them." I exhaled. "I am here too," I replied. I got out of the car. Asphalt, heels, spring sun shining joyfully, not understanding what was about to happen here. Guests were approaching the church, chatting, joking. "Mrs. Vance, hello." Familiar faces rushed to me. "What a day. Congratulations." "Thank you." I smiled as best I could. "You look wonderful," someone said. "James would be happy to see this." He wouldn't mind seeing this, I thought, but not what I'm about to do. At the entrance, Mr. Henderson, James's old partner, approached me, a man who saw how we grew from one hotel to a whole chain. Ella Laner, he looked at me kindly. Well, we lived to see it. Marrying off our Marcus. We lived to see it, I nodded. You did good, he continued. Endured so much, and look at your son. Raised a decent man. And his bride is a gift. Smart, restrained, respects the family. You can see right away she didn't just walk in off the street. Inside I twisted. Thank you, Mr. Henderson, I said aloud. He patted me on the shoulder. James would be proud of you both. I just nodded. Mrs. Vance. Tyrone poked his head out of a side hallway. Marcus is losing his mind in there. Come on, or he'll annoy me to death with questions. Coming, I replied. We went behind the altar to the small rooms where the groom and groomsmen get ready and the bride separately with hers. In the room, Marcus stood before the mirror, fiddling with his tie again. Mom, oh thank God, he said as soon as he saw me. My heart is about to jump out. Alive means everything is fine, I tried to joke. Tyrone leaned against the doorframe. I'm tired of calming him down. Seriously? He's worse than a bride. Marcus waved his hand but smiled. Mom. He came closer and lowered his voice. Tell me honestly, are you really happy for us? I took his face in my hands, looked straight into his eyes, the same as James's. Marcus, I said, choosing my words. The main thing is that you are happy. Am I happy? He answered without hesitation. She feels like she gave me air back, he thought for a second. I'm just afraid, he admitted suddenly, afraid to ruin everything. Afraid I won't measure up to her level. I looked at him and thought, if only you knew how that sounds when she discusses your level with Sam. But aloud I only said, you are better than you think and much better than she deserves. What? He didn't hear. I say she is a lucky woman, I said softly, to have such a husband. He smiled like a boy. Mom. He suddenly hugged me so tight like he hadn't in a long time. Thank you for everything. For holding on after Dad, for not pushing Vanessa away, for being here now. It means a lot to me. My eyes stung but I held back. Son, I said quietly into his shoulder. Remember one thing. Whatever happens today, I love you. And everything I do, even if it hurts you, I do to protect you. He pulled back slightly. Looked surprised. You're talking strangely. It's the day. I shrugged. Got sentimental. 5 minutes. Someone shouted from the hallway. Getting ready. Tyrone slapped Marcus on the back. All right, groom. Fall in. Go. I said I need to check something. I went out into the hallway. On the other side was the room where the bride was getting ready. The door was ajar. I wanted to walk past, but I heard a familiar voice. Not the soft one she used with Marcus and guests. Another one, cold, businesslike. I said, after this we are done. Vanessa was telling someone on the phone. Everything will be fine. He won't understand anything until. It's too late. I froze. Yes, access to the accounts will be there as we discussed, she continued. The rest is a matter of time. She paused, listening to the answer. Calm down, she hissed. Today everything gets resolved. I took a step back, trying not to creak my heel. This was no longer doubt, no longer a guess like maybe I'm paranoid. This was the very thing overheard at the door, after which there is no way back. I turned and walked further down the hall. My hands shook slightly, but my head was unexpectedly quiet. In 10 minutes the ceremony would begin, and in another 15, I had to stand up and destroy the whole spectacle in front of a full church. And I knew for sure I would not back down. In the sanctuary there was that special noise that only happens before a wedding. Not a clamor, not a bazaar. A steady hum of voices, whispers, muffled laughs, high ceilings, light from lamps and stained glass windows, white flowers along the aisle, ribbons, candles. Everything was so beautiful that if I didn't know the truth, I would have been moved myself. Guests were already seated. Someone was chatting, someone twirling the program with our last names, someone looking for the photographer. I sat in the first row on the right of the aisle where the mother of the groom sits, ready to cry with happiness. I wanted to cry, but for a very different reason. I looked around the church. To the left, near the side entrance, stood Frank. Just a driver, a neat man in a suit. Knew where to stand to be invisible if you didn't know who to look for. Further back, deep near a column, I saw Sam. He held Zoe by the hand. The girl twisted her head, looking at the stained glass, flowers, people. For her, it was just a beautiful party. The folder with documents was pressed to his side. Even from here I could see him gripping it. I exhaled. All the pieces were in place. The organ swelled louder. People began to stand. The familiar melody started. They began leading out relatives, bridesmaids, groomsmen. First some distant relatives of the bride, then bridesmaids in identical pastel dresses, each with a small bouquet, smiling, looking around. Then Marcus walked out. He stood at the altar. Next to him Tyrone the pastor, Pastor Williams. Marcus looked, honestly, he looked great. Tall, fit, suit fitting perfectly, eyes shining. Only he didn't know where to put his hands, one way then another. Our eyes met. I smiled at him the way I knew how, only with him and James. Softly, supportively. He relaxed a little, took a deep breath. The music changed. Those long first notes that give everyone goosebumps. The bride's entrance. The doors at the end of the aisle swung open. Vanessa appeared in the opening in a white dress. She really was beautiful. The dress suited her. The veil fell softly from her shoulders. A bouquet of white roses and lilies looked perfect. A whisper went through the rows. What a bride, so slim. Listen, Marcus is marrying well. She walked slowly, evenly, like in a textbook, to the music. Smile not too wide but warm. If I hadn't seen her this morning at the side door, I would never have believed this was the same person. I looked not at the dress and not at the hair, but at the face. Was everything just as perfect there? The mask held. Midway down the aisle she cast a glance into the hall, slightly toward the side column where Sam stood with Zoe. I saw something like fear flash in her eyes for a split second, then click, and again the habitual sweet smile of a happy bride. Marcus was simply glowing, eyes shining, lips trembling. He even touched his heart with his hand as if afraid it would jump out. I looked at him and thought, son, how do I stop you from stepping into this pit? Even if you hate me later. Vanessa reached the altar, stopped, turned to face the pastor and Marcus. He took her hand and I heard someone behind whisper, perfect couple. Pastor Williams began the service. He spoke about marriage being a responsibility built on trust, honesty, mutual respect. I caught every word and thought how strange these words, purity and truth, sounded next to a woman who had a husband and child at home. They read the passage about love that is patient, kind, does not seek its own. I watched Vanessa. At every phrase she tilted her head slightly, made a serious face as a bride should. At one point I noticed her fingers on Marcus's hand clench sharply, then relax again. She understood too. Too much hung over this ceremony. I heard little. An internal timer ticked in my head. Soon the moment would come for which all this was started. I shifted my gaze to the side nave. Sam stood motionless, rooted to the spot. Zoe asked him something in a whisper, pulling his sleeve. He answered her with one or two phrases and looked ahead again. Frank caught my eye, nodded barely noticeably. I am here. I straightened up. Finally, the pastor moved to the part everyone was waiting for. The vows themselves. His voice sounded calm as always when he married couples. Marriage is a serious matter and should not be entered into lightly, he pronounced. It rests on truth, mutual trust, and honesty. Inside I clenched. Yes, Pastor. You're speaking very truly right now, exactly about us. He swept his gaze over the hall, then looked at the bride and groom. Before you exchange vows, he said, by tradition I am obliged to ask, if anyone knows of any just cause why this couple may not be lawfully joined in marriage, let him speak now or forever hold his peace. Silence hung in the church, dense, thick. To many this moment seems a formality. Usually everyone just stands. Someone smiles. Someone whispers. Who cares? Here too. First no one moved. 1, 2, 3. I heard my heart beating in my chest. 4. 5. Somewhere in the back someone coughed quietly. I felt Vanessa relax slightly. Her fingers on Marcus's hand became looser. Shoulders dropped. She almost physically exhaled. Got away with it. And at that moment I stood up. The pew creaked. The dress rustled. I stood up calmly as if just getting up to fix a scarf. But in the silence, even this movement sounded like thunder. Dozens of heads turned to me. I felt these gazes, but looked only forward at my son and the woman next to him. My voice betrayed me slightly at first. I took a deep breath. I object. The church exploded with whispers and gasps. The mother of the groom? What is happening? Is this a joke? Marcus turned around sharply as if he had been hit. Mom. He exhaled. What are you doing? I took a step forward, then another toward the altar, and in my head only one thought spun. There is no way back. I stood. Everything else seemed blurred like in a fog. I object, I repeated more steadily. In the church it felt like the air collapsed. First complete silence, then a whisper rolled through the hall. Sigh. Someone gasped aloud. Marcus. His voice cracked. What are you doing? I took a few steps forward down the aisle. The dress rustled on the carpet. Heels clicked dully. Vanessa gripped the bouquet, fingers turning white. The smile vanished from her face instantly as if switched off. Mrs. Vance, she tried to smile, but her eyes darted. Let's do this later, please. We are people here. All done, I said. Eleanor, maybe we talk separately. Pastor Williams intervened uncertainly. Such things may be better not in front of everyone. I walked up the steps almost to the altar itself and stopped, looking first at my son. This wedding cannot take place, I said clearly. And I am obligated to say this now, not later. Why? Marcus took a step toward me, eyes shining, voice on the edge. Mom, what happened? Are you sick? Do you feel bad? I am fine, I answered. Something else is not fine. I turned to Vanessa. Will you say it yourself? I asked quietly. Or should I? She opened her mouth, but her voice betrayed her. Instead of words, a rasping breath came out. Mrs. Vance, she whispered. You don't understand. I understand very well, I interrupted. Standing before the altar right now is a woman who has been married for 4 years. In the hall, someone shouted. Married? What do you mean? Is this a joke, Mom? Marcus grabbed his head. What are you saying? This is crazy. Then let her say it. I did not take my eyes off Vanessa. Let her tell everyone who Samuel Keegan is. And who Zoe is. The names hung in the air like a blow. Vanessa flinched as if slapped. Marcus looked at her. Who? His voice broke. Who is Samuel? What? Zoe. Vanessa took a step back. The bouquet trembled in her hands. Marcus, don't listen, she began. Your mom, she just want the truth. I said in front of everyone. She tried to hold the mask for a couple more seconds, but her eyes gave her away. In them appeared that same panic I saw this morning at the side door of the strange house. Pastor Williams looked from me to them, not knowing what to do. Eleanor, he said quietly, are you sure of what you are saying? This is a very serious accusation. More than sure, I replied. And not just me. I shifted my gaze to the back of the church. There by the side column stood Sam. He froze like an animal dragged into the light, folder pressed to his side. With his other hand he held Zoe. The girl stretched her neck, trying to see the bride closer. People started turning around, following my gaze. The whisper intensified. Someone pointed. Look, a man with a child. Sam took a deep breath like diving into water, and slowly walked down the center aisle. Zoe walked beside him, tightly holding his hand. Her dress was simple, light hair in 2 ponytails, ribbons slightly askew. Daddy, I heard her thin voice. Why is everyone looking at us? Everything is fine, sunshine. He answered quietly. Just walk with me. At that moment in the church, you could hear wax dripping from a candle in the corner. People fell silent, only the rustle of clothes and rare coughing. Sam reached almost the front rows, stopped, looked up at Vanessa. Zoe also looked up, saw her in the white dress with the veil and flowers. The girl's face lit up with joy. Mommy ringing throughout the church. You look like a princess. A collective gasp went through the hall. Vanessa shut her eyes tight as if from a bright light. The bouquet almost slipped from her hands. Marcus looked from the child to her to Sam. The world was falling apart before his eyes, and he didn't even understand what to grab onto. Explain, he rasped. Right now. Vanessa opened her mouth but said nothing. Sam closed his eyes for a second, then took another step forward and spoke, addressing everyone at once. My name is Samuel Keegan. His voice trembled but every word was clear. And this woman, he shifted his gaze to Vanessa. This woman is my lawful wife. For years now. I heard someone behind swear in a whisper. Someone dropped a program. The paper slapped the floor. And this, he gently pushed Zoe a little forward, is our daughter. Zoe waved at everyone, completely misunderstanding what she was doing. My name is Zoe, she announced happily. And that's my mommy. He pronounced the last word so matter-of-factly, so childishly simple that a wave of whispers rose in the church again. Marcus, my son, stood at the altar looking at all this like a man watching his life being slowly and carefully broken. And in that moment, I knew the worst part he hadn't heard yet. Marcus stood as if the floor had dropped out from under him, eyes wide open, lips trembling. No, he exhaled. No, that can't be. He took a step back, almost tripped on the step. Tyrone instinctively caught him by the elbow. Brother, wait, he said quietly. Let's figure this out. Mom. Marcus turned to me, voice cracking. Tell me he's lying. Tell me this is some mistake. Tell me this is all someone's stupid prank. I looked at him and felt everything tearing inside. Son, I said quietly, if this were a mistake, I would never stand here today. He stepped closer. Did you see her? He asked. Did you really see them together? Yes, I answered. This morning at their house, I heard her call him husband. Saw their daughter run to her saying, Mommy, I talked to Sam. I have documents. I touched the bag where the folder lay. I didn't come here with empty hands and empty words. Marcus shifted his gaze to Sam. Is it true? He asked hoarsely. Tell me straight. Sam pressed his lips together, closed his eyes for a second, then nodded. Yes, he said. True. Vanessa and I have been married for 4 years. Live together. This is our child. Zoe, not understanding what she had walked into, happily added. We eat pancakes together in the mornings too. Daddy cooks and Mommy hands them out. Someone in the hall sobbed. Vanessa stood like a porcelain figurine. Only the trembling of her shoulders betrayed that she was alive. Vanessa. Marcus turned to her, eyes glassy. Say at least something. She opened her mouth, but instead of words, a quiet sob escaped. It's not like that, she whispered. Marcus, listen please. What exactly is not like that? My voice sounded unexpectedly steady. Not like that you have a husband, or not like that you have a daughter, or not like that you plan to enter our family to pay off a loan shark. The whisper in the hall rose in a new wave. Lord, a loan shark. What did she do? Sam took a deep breath. I'll say it myself, he said quietly. She may have wanted it differently, but in fact it looked exactly like that. He raised his eyes to Marcus. You are a good guy, Marcus, he said. And I will never forgive myself for dragging you into this. Then explain. Marcus looked straight at him, clinging to every word. To the end. Sam nodded as if commanding himself. Enough silence. Vanessa and I had debts, he began. Big ones. Zoe was born early, stayed in the hospital a long time. The bills kept me up at night. I got into a couple of stupid investments hoping to make quick money. Lost. He paused for a second, smoothed Zoe's hair. Then Raythorn showed up. He continued, a man who lends money to those banks have already rejected. Not for free, obviously. Some guests exhaled grimly. Understood. First he was polite, smiling. Sam spoke calmly without attempting to justify himself. And then he said directly, if we don't pay back on his schedule, he takes Zoe. Sells her. That's it. Someone in the hall sobbed quietly. Vanessa got scared, he continued, and started looking for a way out. Jobs, loans, all that. Then she started reading about wealthy families in the city. Found your name. He looked at me. Vance Hotels, malls, land. She said. There is money there for sure. Just need to get into that family. Marcus blinked as if slapped. So he choked out. When you approached me at that charity gala. Sam nodded. That wasn't accidental, he said. She found out in advance you'd be there. That you support the hospital, that you'd be alone. I shuddered. I remembered how Marcus came home then, glowing, saying, Mom, imagine such a girl asks about projects and charity, like we've known each other for 100 years. Vanessa finally spoke, her voice cracked. I didn't plan to, she looked around at hundreds of eyes. I didn't want it to go like this. I really what? I asked quietly. That you picked my son based on a calculation, Or that you kept a husband and child at home while playing the perfect bride here. Do you understand? Vanessa flared up. Ray said he would take Zoe. Do you have any idea what that is? Fearing your child will be taken. In her voice sounded genuine panic. I did everything for her. She screamed. For my daughter. Part of the people in the hall exchanged glances. Someone muttered quietly. For a child, a mother will do anything. I caught several sympathetic glances. Already for her, not me. I understood that right now the most dangerous thing was to let this pity grow. For the child, I repeated calmly, you decided to destroy another family. I looked her straight in the eyes. You could have gone to the police, to a lawyer, to journalists, to anyone, but you chose the simplest path. Find a rich widower or a bit younger, and enter the house through his feelings. Vanessa flinched. You don't know what it's like, she whispered. Thinking all night that your little girl could be. I think any parent here understands that. I nodded slightly toward Zoe, but it is one thing to protect your child, another to make someone else's boy a target. I felt Marcus shudder next to me. He took a step toward Vanessa, stopped very close. Answer me, he said quietly. But so the whole church heard. I have to hear this. She raised tear-stained eyes to him. Tell me honestly, he continued. Did you ever love me at all? Even a little bit, even for one moment? Or was all this dinners, late-night talks, your trips? I love you. I feel calm with you. Was it all just a role? She was silent. A second. Another. Third. Lips trembled but no sound appeared. Answer. Marcus's voice rang out. I need to know what in my life was real. Vanessa gripped the bouquet so hard that several petals flew off. Tears rolled down her cheeks, mascara running. She remained silent. And this silence was worse than any no. Marcus stepped back as if hit. Tyrone caught him by the shoulder. Brother, don't touch her, Marcus said hollowly. I turned to Vanessa. You say you did all this for your daughter, but along the way you managed to deceive my son, deceive dozens of people, put our business at risk, and end up with your child now having to see her mother God knows where and how. I got confused, she sobbed. Everything just spun out. I thought if we paid off faster, it would all end. It didn't get spun out, I said quietly. It is conscious deception. It is fraud. It is bigamy. Somewhere behind me in the rows, Mr. Henderson spoke up loudly so everyone heard. Ella Laner called the police. This smells of a criminal case, not a family quarrel. I didn't turn around. Already called, I answered. Frank did it before the ceremony even started. Marcus turned sharply to me. You planned all this? No. I said calmly. The police? Yes. Humiliating you? No. I only wanted to stop the marriage before it was concluded and hand everything over to the proper channels inside. Of course, everything was trembling, but my voice held. Sam raised the folder. Here are all the documents, he said. Marriage certificate, photos, texts, bank statements, her searches on your family. I will give this to the investigator, he added as required. Vanessa swayed as if her legs wouldn't hold her. Sam, she whispered. Don't do this. The Vances are powerful. They will crush us. Us? I asked quietly. Are you sure you can still say us? He looked at her with a long gaze. In it was memory of another, her normal and tiredness and finality. I am doing this for Zoe, he said. I don't want her growing up thinking all this is normal. Zoe clung to his hand even tighter, not fully understanding, but feeling something terrible was happening around her. In the church, a pause hung again, heavy, viscous. People exchanged glances. Someone quietly filmed on their phone. Someone hid their eyes, ashamed to have witnessed this. And in the very heat of this silence, from the entrance came a calm but firm male voice. Vanessa Keegan. We all turned simultaneously to the doors. In the opening stood two officers in uniform. The light from the street behind them cut the eyes. Vanessa Keegan repeated the taller one. Vanessa flinched as if doused with cold water. Here she choked out hoarsely. The officers walked slowly up the aisle. People mechanically made way. Someone stepped back. Someone, on the contrary, leaned forward to see better. The tall one stopped at the steps. Citizen Keegan Vanessa Lynn. You are detained on suspicion of fraud, bigamy, and attempted theft of property in particularly large amounts. He pronounced clearly. Everything further will be sorted out in due order. The second officer spoke softer. Come with us, please. No, wait. Vanessa's eyes darted around. Marcus, tell them. Tell them I didn't. Marcus looked at her as if a stranger stood before him. I won't say anything, he answered hollowly. I need to understand who you are myself. The officer took out handcuffs. Metal flashed in the lamplight. You have the right not to testify against yourself, he pronounced calmly. Anything you say can be used as evidence. Vanessa recoiled. Wait, I have a daughter, Zoe. Zoe jerked. Pressed against Sam. Daddy, why is the man taking Mommy? Sam hugged her with one arm, pressing the folder tighter with the other. Mommy has grown-up business, he said quietly. They will talk to her and figure it out. You and I are here. I'm right here. The younger officer looked at them. Don't worry about the child. Child services won't come unless you write them yourself. We came on a specific statement and materials. He glanced at Frank. It was clear they had already discussed everything. And also, he added, Citizen Thorne was detained at the entrance, tried to enter the church, acted aggressively. He is already in the car. Sam squeezed Zoe's hand so hard his knuckles turned white. So, he was coming for us here, he said quietly. He was, confirmed the officer, but didn't make it. The handcuffs clicked on Vanessa's wrists. This sound echoed in the church like a gunshot. She tried to turn to Marcus. Marcus, I didn't need to. Don't, he said quietly, not even looking. They led her down the aisle back, no longer a bride, but an accused criminal. The white dress caught on the carpet. The veil was slightly askew. The bouquet was gone from her hands. It lay on the step, dropped petals scattered on the floor. When the doors slammed behind them, a strange silence hung in the church. No music, no speech, no laughter. Only the heavy breathing of people and faint crying in the back rows. The ceremony naturally was stopped. Pastor Williams, pale as a wall, said quietly that the marriage was impossible and asked everyone to disperse. Guests stood up awkwardly. Some tried to approach Marcus, pat his shoulder, say, "Hang in there. We're with you." Some turned away, ashamed of having watched this spectacle. The stream of people slowly flowed out of the church. Tyrone stood next to my son, literally propping him up with his shoulder. I sat nearby on the first row, not touching him, just being there. He was silent for a long time, looking into nowhere at the spot where the wedding bouquet had just stood. How long did you know? He asked finally, not turning his head. Since last night. Definitely not, I answered honestly. Since this morning. Facts and documents. Since this morning. Frank suspected something earlier but needed proof. Why didn't you tell me at home? He turned his head. Why not in the car? Why not in the room while I was tying my tie? Because you wouldn't have heard me, I said calmly. You would have decided I was jealous, didn't want to let you go, picking on her. You would have defended her to the last. He opened his mouth, wanted to object, but fell silent. Understood. I was right. You still would have come here, I continued, possibly even offended at me, possibly even quarreling, and still said, I do. He lowered his eyes. A yes, he squeezed out. I would have said it. That is why I chose the moment when we had witnesses, documents, a living husband and child, I explained quietly. When it's not just the words of a mom who doesn't like the daughter-in-law. He sighed so heavily, as if his soul was pulled out. Feel like an idiot, he said. You are not an idiot, I objected. You're a person who wanted to love and trust. That's what schemes like this are built on. So I'm a victim of a scheme, he chuckled bitterly. Great joy. You are a person who didn't sign the paper in time, I said. And that is the main thing. You are not the husband of a fraudster. Not by law, not before God. He froze, digesting. You saved me? He asked evenly. Yes, I answered. I just did what I had to do, I replied, looking at the stained glass. Any mother would do that. Not any, he said quietly. Someone would have kept quiet, ashamed, scared of what people would say. He rubbed his face with his palms, then unexpectedly leaned down and pressed his forehead to mine like in childhood. I hate you right now, and I'm hugging you at the same time, he exhaled. Normal condition, I said. We'll survive. 3 months passed. Life didn't become the same, but slowly entered a different track. I sat in the office, a stack of contracts on the desk. Next to it, a mug with tea already cold. On the wall, the photo. The three of us at the lake house, still young, laughing. There was a knock on the door, and without even waiting for an answer, Marcus walked in with a folder and a shirt without a tie. "Mom, project for the new shopping center is ready," he said. "Want to look yourself first or straight to legal?" I put down my pen. "First me." He sat down, handed over the folder, then perched on the edge of the desk like James used to do. I looked closely at him. The face wasn't as empty as the first days. Circles under the eyes were gone. The gaze became a bit calmer. Laughter didn't return immediately, but sometimes I heard him laughing on the phone with Tyrone. "How are you?" I asked. "Not about work." "Honestly," he chuckled. "There are good days. There are days when I wake up and think, Lord, screw it all. Overall, holding up." "Going to the therapist?" I clarified. "Going," he nodded. "You know, it's not shameful like I thought before. Talking about trust, boundaries, how not to step in it next time." "Next time meaning it's allowed," I noted. He smiled slightly. "Have to live on," he answered. "Just won't jump straight into a new relationship. Want to sort myself out first." He paused, then added, "By the way, the investigator called me today." I put the folder aside. Decision on Vanessa came down. 5 years real time with possibility of parole, but that depends on behavior. I nodded without gloating, without relief, just as a fact. "Not happy," said Marcus. "But not sorry either. She walked herself to where she went." "And Ray?" I asked. "Sitting in jail," he answered. "He has plenty of his own cases there. They told us he was being looked at, not just because of you." "Good," I said. "Sam wrote," added Marcus, "thanked for the lawyer. Said without our legal team, he would have been twisted into this story as an accomplice." I remembered Sam on the porch of that little house with the folder in his hands, with guilt and fear in his eyes. "How are they?" I asked. "Living bit by bit," answered Marcus. "Zoe goes to kindergarten. She's fine. Sam got a job at a friend's auto shop," he said. Marcus hesitated for a second. "Said Zoe sometimes remembers the nice lady from the church." "That's you." I chuckled. "At least someone in the story remembered me as kind." "Don't be modest," he said. "You're the only one here who actually did what had to be done." He stood up, came over, hugged me. This time without anguish, humanly. Not like a drowning man clutching a life preserver, but like an adult son hugging his mother. "Thank you," he said. "Not just for saving me from the wedding, for not letting me fall apart afterward." "Always time to fall apart," I answered. "But first, let's close the mortgage," then the nervous breakdown. He laughed for real. "First time in a long while." "Okay," he said. "I'm off to Frank's. We're looking at fleet schedules." "To whom?" I asked again. He smiled. "To Uncle Frank. He's officially uncle now." I called him that and he almost cried. "And rightly so," I said. It was long time to admit he wasn't just a driver to us. When Marcus left, I remained alone in the office, looked at the photo on the wall. "Well, James," I said quietly, "we fought for our boy. Not without losses, but whole." Inside there was no relief. No, rather understanding. This was one of those choices after which life divides into before and after. And now to you, those listening to this story to the end. I am the woman who stood up in the middle of a church and said, "I object," when everyone expected silent consent. And I did it to my own son in the most vulnerable moment of his life. 3 times that day I asked God for strength. First, when I saw Vanessa at a stranger's door with a husband and child. Second, when driving to the church, realizing no one there would understand me and might judge me. Third, when I stood up from my seat and said aloud, "I object." Every time the answer was the same. Your job is to protect. The rest is not your business. I am not a saint, not a perfect mother. I screwed up too. Ignored my own gut feeling for 2 years. Brushed off small signals. Didn't want to spoil my son's happiness. Didn't want to be that mother-in-law. And in the end, still stood up and told the truth only at the hardest moment. So, if you want to take something from this story, let it be this. Maternal and generally human instinct rarely lies. If everything inside churns, don't silence it for the sake of peace. Check. Ask. Love is no reason to turn off your brain, neither for a man nor a woman. And the hardest thing in love is sometimes saying no where everyone expects yes from you. There is a phrase in the Bible, "The Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy." I am no theologian, but in life I understood one thing. Truth is rarely beautiful. It often hits hard everyone at once. But living a lie is even worse. I remained a widow. My son at that moment remained without a bride with a broken heart and cut down trust in people. Vanessa went not to City Hall but to jail. Ray went there too on his own accounts. Sam and Zoe are trying to build a life anew without schemes and debts. Marcus and I are rebuilding trust. Not fast, not smooth, but honest. This is not a fairy tale. No one lived happily ever after the next day. But we live as is with open eyes. And that, believe me, is enough to consider it a new beginning. If this story resonated with you, support the channel, subscribe, send it to someone for whom this might be important. Maybe a friend who is closing her eyes to the obvious, or a son who is rushing too fast to get married. Write in the comments if you ever had to take a painful step to protect loved ones. Speak an unpleasant truth when it was easier to stay silent. Such stories are not about gossip. They are about choice, about the price we pay for honesty. And one more important thing, some details of the story are changed and gathered from different real situations so as not to expose anyone, and so you can see yourself from the outside. But the feelings, fears, mistakes, and conclusions are real. If it is hard for you to listen to such family stories, no worries. The channel has others, calmer ones. Choose what you can handle. And if you listen to the end, thank you for being with me. Take care of yourself, your children, and your truth. Thank you for listening to this story to the end. Write in the comments how old you are and where you are from. It is important for us to know who is watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. Ahead are even more real stories from